This is Bloomberg Markets. I'm Scarlett Fu. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's comments on Capitol Hill added to Bitcoin's sell-off after he said the U.S. government could not, quote, bail out Bitcoin. Bessent is once again on the Hill today, this time appearing before the Senate Banking Committee. Nathan Dean is our senior policy analyst for Bloomberg Intelligence in Washington. So, Nathan, there are a lot of headlines that Scott Bessent made while speaking before the Senate Banking Committee. What got your attention?
So it was that comment about crypto in particular, because obviously, with the price of Bitcoin falling, there's this question out there. Will the U.S. government actually go out and purchase Bitcoins as it's part of its strategic Bitcoin reserve? And what the Treasury Secretary essentially said is that he does not have the authority to use taxpayer dollars to do so. Now, this is actually not exactly what a lot of crypto advocates want. Senator Lummis from Wyoming actually has a bill out there to actually ask the U.S. government to go out and purchase 5 million Bitcoin. So unfortunately, for those crypto advocates that are hoping for the U.S. government to get in there, our note that we just put out in the terminal this morning essentially says we only see a 30% chance that the U.S. government, either by executive order or by legislation, is going to go actively purchase Bitcoin.
Right. Have we heard anything on the Bitcoin strategic reserve since the president proposed it? It feels like everything we've heard so far is just speculation.
So, the reserve actually exists, but what the U.S. government is doing is they're essentially accumulating Bitcoin and other crypto assets that have been part of civil and criminal seizures. And they've got approximately, for example, 218,000 Bitcoin in there at the moment. And so that's what the strategic Bitcoin reserve is that if the U.S. accumulates this as part of a criminal case, for example, it goes into the reserve and then they don't sell it. But there's no additional purchase of it. And, the Treasury could use something like the Exchange Stabilization Fund to do so. But we don't think that's in the cards this year. Gotcha.
Scott Bessent also talked about concerns over Fed independence. He made some comments with regards to the future chairman, if he is indeed confirmed, Kevin Warsh of the Federal Reserve. What was your take on that?
So, it's interesting today between Senator Tom Tillis. He actually gave a statement essentially saying why he thinks that Kevin Warsh is a good pick, but also why he's holding up that block, in response to this investigation of the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. And the number one question we get from clients is what happens if Senator Tillis follows through on that block? Well, he can effectively block that nomination from going forward. The GOP controls that committee 13-11, so you get a 12-12 tie. And it would take 60 votes to discharge that petition and bypass the committee. We don't see that happening anytime soon. So this investigation has to be, quote unquote, resolved by Senator Tillis's words in order to get a vote. So that's the big question that our clients are asking right now is what happens? Because right now it looks like Kevin Warsh's nomination isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, it's certainly a big question here, and that's one that's very important to the bond market. Nathan, really appreciate your joining us. Nathan Dean of Bloomberg Intelligence. He is our senior policy analyst over in Washington. Now,